And policies continue to stay as is always done. The latest body to do this head and tail dance is the Africa Progress Panel, chaired by former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. The Africa Progress 2013 report says Africa must direct gains from her natural resources wealth towards socio-economic development of her people or continue to be the world's underdog. Corruption, weak government and tax avoidance costs rob the continent billions each year. Africa is losing more through illicit financial flows than it receives in aid and foreign direct investment, so says the report. It's the Black Star of Africa. As the Black Star of Africa, could Ghana perhaps become the unlikely candidate to break the resource-rich human-poor cycle? Tonight on PM Express, I expose this very question. And I'm sure you've all heard it in the news, but with me in the studio to discuss why we are so endowed with resources, from human to mineral resources, I would even say weather resources. Even the weather is favorable, yet still we are not able to capitalize on it. But we'll stick on the mineral resources. With me in the studio, to my extreme left is Emmanuel Koyole, from Africa Regional Africa Regional Coordinator for Revenue Watch Institute. Emmanuel, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And then to my immediate left is Mr. Amponsa Teria, and he's from Minerals Commission. This is going to be exciting. Emmanuel, Amponsa, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now I'll start with Amponsa. Minerals Commission, what do you do? What are your specific role that you do at Minerals Commission?
Right. My specific role in the Minerals Commission...
No, the entity, not yours.
Yes.
Yeah, the entity, okay.
The Minerals Commission, as an entity, is responsible for the management of the utilization of the mineral wealth of this country. Let me just put it in summary that way. We are responsible for the management of the efficient utilization of the mineral resources. Yes, of the country.
And then I'm going to Emmanuel, Coordinator, Revenue Watch Institute. What do you do, and which revenues are you keeping an eye on?
Yeah, well, we basically, what we do is to make sure that we promote good governance of the extractive sector, and by that we mean we're looking at the policies, the legal frameworks. We are interested in the fiscal regimes, the fiscal regimes, and also how the revenues from mining, oil and gas sector are utilized. Mm-hmm. So we believe that part of the challenge faced by a lot of mineral, or let me say resource-rich countries, is a governance one. But we also think that therein lies the solution. Whereas governance seems to be the biggest challenge for a lot of sub-Saharan African countries, in managing the resources. We also think that fixing the governance question could go a very long way to ensure that countries maximize the benefits. So we focus mainly on the governance aspects.
Is Revenue Watch only like Ghana, or you all over Africa?
It's global. It's global. We have. I work in the Africa office, which is based here in Accra, but our head office is in New York. But we do have offices also in Latin America and Asia and Middle East, and also in the Caucasus. So we're quite global.
Minerals Commission, supposed to manage how our minerals are used. Emmanuel, Mr. Amponsa, you're not you. So when I say you, not you, but Mineral Commission, you've done a bad job.
I would definitely contest that.
Yeah.
We have not actually done any bad job.
Mm-hmm.
I must say the Commission has really and proactively managed the mineral wealth of this country. Before the establishment of the Commission in 1984, I must say that the mineral resource sector was actually chaotic. You know that in the earlier stages, the British had what we refer to as the Mineral Concession Ordinance. And that was what was actually operating. Virtually, it was just between the investors and the chiefs.
Okay.
Yes. And you realize that during those times, the chiefs could just simply sign an agreement with the company for 99 years.
Okay.
Yes. Apparently not knowing even whatever that is even on the ground. But the Commission came in and they streamlined all these processes, said that now any investor who comes into the country knows exactly what is expected of him, what he needs to do before he can acquire a concession, and then when he acquires a concession, his roles and responsibilities in terms of policing the property, in terms of the technology that he needs to use, in terms of care for the environment, and then more importantly, his obligations towards the state. Talking about his taxes, the royalties that they need to pay, and the employment aspect. So I must say that the Commission has really streamlined the processes and has actually helped the industry to grow from where you took it in pre-1984 era.
Suppose I get all your analogy from the British streamlining everything, but without even looking at any statistics, we pollute waters now more, we degrade the land more, we earn very little, we respect the people least. So I don't know where this commission's, whatever the streamlining you did, I'm yet to see the advantage.
Okay. Yeah, talking about pollution of water, destruction of the environment, lack of respect for people in the communities. I must say that these are actually perceived, particularly disrespect for the communities. When it comes to the pollution of the environment and then destruction of our water bodies, I think by and large, people keep on actually pointing fingers at this without actually looking at which sector or which subsector of mining that is actually causing this. You see, the industry is wide.
Newmont is a big company. They've had their fair share of problems.
Again, just hold on. The sector is wide, and definitely we have a lot of some bad boys within the system.
Of course.
You are talking about Newmont issue. Yeah, that one is actually an environmental issue. I believe we are talking about when there was actually some discharge into a mainstream there.
But it was still cyanide, so even a drop of it.
Cyanide.
Yeah, I mean, it was cyanide.
No,
but
you see, hold on.
I want you to add this to your answer.
No, just hold on.
I want you to add this to your answer.
No, just hold on.
Add it to your answer.
Hold your peace.
Okay.
Hold your peace. You see, for every economic activity, you put in controls. But then, some of the controls at some point in time, probably there could be some failures. That's why even in manufacturing, even talk about probability of failures or probability of success. You see, some of these failures do occur. That one, I must actually attest to that. I know that some failures had occurred some time back in Newmont, even at Goldfields some time back. But then, that does not actually brand mining completely as a bad boy in the society.
See, that's why I wanted to add my... See, what I was going to say, and I'll come to you, Emmanuel, is that the little miner or the Galamsey guy in there is thinking that, hold on, this land belongs to me and my ancestors and my fathers. These big boys have come in and they are polluting it and the state is not saying anything. So why should I obey the rules when he is making all the money and not obeying rules and nobody's arresting them? So there's no reason for him to stay in the clear and narrow. So everybody is just going on there. But before you come there, I want to go to Emmanuel and say, why is it that all the spillage and all the mishaps only happens into this side of the world and never in the advanced countries? I'm sure they mine in America somewhere, but you don't go and degrade their land and pollute their waters. You dare not pollute some water, somewhere because you're mining copper or you're mining coal, so you're going to do anything. They are, and the same companies are the same companies who are here. I'm sure some people are mining here and mining in Australia. And you look at how their systems in Australia are, and compared to the systems here, the money they pay to even the workers in Australia doing the same job as here, selling the same commodity at world price, and you look at the disparity and you're thinking, hold on, what went wrong? And you've done a few research, so maybe you can elaborate on it.
Maybe to start off with, I would say, Nana, I think it's important to generally say that, people will do what you inspect, not what you expect them to do.
Okay.
So I think it's a question of regulation, but also effective oversight and making sure that, in the extractive industry, the companies are operating within certain standards and rules, and somebody is monitoring. I think that's where, in the case of mining, the Mineral Commission, for example, will play host. And you are right. It's the same companies, operating in these different jurisdictions. They don't get away with some of the things they get away with in Africa, in least developing countries, because there are effective rules and there are institutions that make sure that you operate within certain laid down rules and regulations. And if you, go beyond bounds, you are actually punished. I mean, we all witnessed what happened in the Gulf of Mexico, in the United States, with BP, with the spillage. I mean, so it's the same companies have been operating in Nigeria, and some studies have shown that, what happened in the Gulf of Mexico, that happens in Nigeria
on a weekly basis.
Yes. Why are they not being punished? So that's the difference, that, in the US, there are systems in place, and somebody is monitoring, making sure that if you, flout the rules, you get punished. And so that's the main difference here. So I think that for Africa, and in this case, and other countries that have managed their resources well, for me, is an issue of good policies, regulations, making sure that somebody is given the right oversight and monitoring. And we have failed. We don't have the right institutions, we don't have the right frameworks, and nobody is monitoring. And so everybody just get away.
Having a field there.
Yeah.
And with the Minerals Commission, this, the watchman side of managing the minerals, do you have any hand in it?
Yeah, we actually participate fully in the monitoring aspects of the operations of the company. But then let me first correct some impression that you actually made, that you said these things happen here and then they don't happen elsewhere, and they happen here and then they are not punished, but then they are punished elsewhere. Yes, they happen here, and here too, when they do happen, I think they are also slapped with some kind of penalties. I'm sure, like you rightly attested to what happened at the Newmont Ahafo. Newmont was actually penalized for that.
How much?
Oh, they were actually made to pay substantial amount to EPA, to Minerals Commission, to the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, and also to the community.
About how much? Because I know Newmont takes about, what, a few millions of ounces of gold from Ghana.
I think at that time they paid, a sum for correction, but I think in the range of about 14 million Ghana cedis or so. Yeah, I stand for correction. I don't have the right figure. But then, talking about the fact that this kind of failures only happen in Africa and more so in Ghana here, I'll give you a classical example. In the mid-70s, there was this tailing failure, popularly referred to as the Anaconda tailing failure in Spain. And that one actually wiped out not just a community, not just a town, but virtually, I would say, a whole region. And actually, at that time, Rio Tinto was also equally punished for that kind of failure. So yes, they do happen everywhere, but then we try as much as possible to guard against all such negatives associated with the operation.
No, Mr. Musa, I'm sure, I mean, once upon a time, even the River Thames was polluted with all their regulations. But we are talking about the frequency in which it happens in our world is what the problem is. I mean, we've just cited America. I mean, with all their regulations, an accident happens.
Sure.
But you look at Nigeria and you think, hold on, it happens more than often by the same company. So I think that's where the issue is. So that's why we're wondering is that if you are the watchman side of making sure that these regulations are being held, then my first question stands that you haven't done a good job.
We have. And again, I'll emphasize for the fact that we have, because even we are talking about failures that do occur. Definitely.
Failures that frequently occur.
Hold on.
Frequently.
Hold on. In Ghana here, if we're talking about the frequency of such failures, then that one I would say that Ghana has actually done very well. Because this kind of failures have not been very frequent in this country.
Why? Are you saying because it's Ghana?
No. I'm only just citing Ghana as an example. If we're talking about the whole of Africa, then that one, you can talk about certain places, just like you cited Nigeria. You see, Nigeria is actually a peculiar nation where I think, I would say, rules and orders actually don't follow the way that they are supposed to be followed. I know, and I can testify that in Nigeria, in fact, you can have such problems occurring, and the very person who is even supposed to actually control these things, you find that probably he's even, I would say, a latent employee of that particular company.
Okay, let's move on to tax evasion, because I think that's where we suffer a lot. And you find out that all these mine companies somehow manage to, evade the proper taxes that are due us. Now, with you being the watchman, as in revenue watchman, is it because of the policies we have made, or is it because of just corporate loopholes that they use? Because we don't get as much as goes out. 3 million ounces of gold left Ghana, I think, last year. 3 million ounces of gold. And if they were being sold at averagely $1,600, that's a few amount of dollars that we could have had a fair share to do something development. But clearly, it didn't come. So why are we going wrong, Emmanuel?
I think it's a combination of several factors, including those that you mentioned. You have to understand that we are dealing with quite big corporations when we are talking about the companies that are involved in this sector. And I think maybe I should give you some statistics to buttress the point that I'm trying to make. If you take a company like Shell, for example, in 2012, the annual revenues for Shell was $467.2 billion US. That was 467.2 billion. That's the annual revenue for 2012 for Shell as a multinational company, global.
Wow.
That's more than putting the total GDP of Nigeria, Angola, and Gabon together. In 2012, the GDP for Nigeria was $244.0 billion US. That of Angola was $104.3 billion.
104.
Yes, 0.3, and Gabon 17.1 billion dollars.
Wow.
Now, Shell operates in each of these countries. The point I'm trying to make is that, the company, Shell, was far bigger than these three countries put together.
And is operating in these countries.
So, the picture I'm trying to paint is that you need to understand what is it that you're confronted with. These are huge companies. And so, for a country to, like, say, Ghana, dealing with any of these multinational companies, you need to understand what is it that you are confronted with.
Wow.
And to make sure that you have the appropriate policy and regulate. And I go back to the regulations and make sure that they are effective and you understand the way they operate. So that if a company A, say in Ghana, in the mining sector, is buying equipment from, they are importing for their production, you need to understand where this is coming from. Is it possible that they're just buying it from a subsidiary of the same company somewhere? Could they have gotten that at a cheaper price? Because you need to understand that, all what we are talking about here in terms of the revenue is a function of the cost of production. Mm-hmm. And so as a country, you need to be interested in understanding how is the company's cost structured. This is where the issue about some of the mispricing and so on happen. And the tax evasion and so on happen. But there are other issues, where sometimes it's just also weak legislation or also just our own sometimes government attitude. In Africa for some time, and Ms. Amponsateria talked about the early 80s coming down, the effort made by the Commission and others to make sure that you increase investment in the sector. You need to ask yourself, yes, that increase in mining investment is true, but at what cost? Because to be able to attract these companies, what happened with our policy, especially taxation policy, was basically to put in place a lot of tax holidays, reduce a lot of the taxation to the extent that, for example, up until, and he may correct me, up until 2011, do you know how much the big companies were paying for a square kilometer of land?
Is it 50 pesos or something?
Yeah.
50 pesos?
Yes. This was revised only in 2011. That's how low it was. Wow. And so some of the leakages happened, by simply just lowering your tax rate. So if you have Ghana competing against Guinea and Burkina Faso and Zambia to attract the same company, and you are all lowering your taxes as a way of attracting the company, in the process, you just all raise down to the bottom.
It is getting exciting. This is definitely Corporate Wednesday on PM Express. We're going for a quick break, and when we come back, we are continuing to still want to find out what else can we do to make sure that at least we can earn a bit more than what we're doing now. What policies can we put in place? Do we need more watchmen, more legislation, more policies? Who knows? Stay tuned. We're coming straight back. Welcome back to PM Express, Corporate Wednesday. We are discussing equity in extractive industry, i.e. resources. And with me in the studio is Amponsateria from Minerals Commission and Emmanuel Koyole from Africa Regional Coordinator for Revenue Watch Institute. But before we continue the conversation, let me remind you that Reg Emmanuel Estate, with over 20 years of unbeatable records at Katamanso, has 2 to 3 bedroom houses with expansion possibilities, set within gated communities with a superb infrastructure, 24/7 security, street light, landscape areas, and social amenities including sports complex, educational facilities, shopping center, and health facilities. Also, there are Balloon Gate Apartments at Kwabenya is also another desirable place to live. For more information, call 020-222-9916 or 020-222-9918, and I'm sure they'll give you a guided tour and you can own your own home. We're coming back to the studio, and I'm going straight to Minerals Commission and saying that, can we do anything differently so that January 2014, some of the percentages I'm seeing here, and apparently, we increase mineral taxes with increase last year from 25 to 35%, and the mining companies are saying that, hold on, you're overcharging us. It's too much money. Can we do something?
Nana, yeah. I think that actually for the company to come out to say that Ghana is actually overcharging, I think it's neither here nor there. You really have to compare what is happening elsewhere. Even if we take Africa, look at what is happening in Tanzania, what is happening in Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, before you actually come out to make side pronouncements. I must say that minerals, in general, the quantities that we have, I'm talking about the known ones, is gradually getting dwindled. And like for any other commodity, when it's actually becoming more and more scarce, definitely the price will have to go up. This is basic economics.
Okay.
Yes. And so for a company just to stand up and say that you've actually increased your tax rate from 25% to 35%, and as such, you are actually overburdening us too much. The question one may even want to ask is, how many of them have consistently even been paying the corporate tax? I'm saying this because you put in all your expenditures, and then you realize that virtually there was nothing left even to be taxed. And for me, 100% of zero is zero. But then, even if we have 10% of 100, that is a good amount. So the areas that we really have to be concerned is with what actually goes into their operating cost.
So if the guy comes in to do a deal and he's signed a contract, and if indeed you don't put in the contract that, hold on, in 6 months' time I'll come and review the taxes, and then you come and say, well, Mr. Smith, you seem to be sending too much gold away, so now I need more money. I would say, no, hold on. When I came, you did not write in that contract that every 6 months we'll review the taxes.
That's when you're right. You see, I believe that in a contract, we have to put in some kind of triggers. You realize that, I think that was in 2011 budget that the minister came out and said that this time the companies are actually going to pay a flat royalty rate of 5%. Before then, actually before 2006, the royalty rate was actually in the range of 3 to 12%. But that time, I can assure you, virtually no company actually paid beyond the 3%. That is the base. From 2006, with the enactment of the Act 703, where the band was actually narrowed between 3 to 6%, actually every company was still paying the 3%. Even though in those times, you realize that the price of gold might have actually gone up so high. So one may ask, now the prices have gone up so high, why is that you are still paying the 3%? But then you realize that what is so marvelous is that during those times, when the price of gold was relatively low, the operating cost was also reasonably low. But when we had these hikes in the price, you realize that the operating cost was just targeting the price.
They were digging for more.
Yeah, they were digging, even though they were digging for more, and then salaries definitely had gone up. Prices for energy and the fuels have gone up. I believe that you should not have that kind of matching cost against that kind of price hike.
So they were trying to evade how much.
So for me, I believe that even in the contracts, government probably could put in some triggers. If we go to Nigeria, in the oil sector, there are these triggers that if the price of crude oil actually moves to such a range, then this is what you have to pay to the state.
Okay, so it's written in there.
Yes, it's written there. So actually, we have to get some of these triggers so that if the price of gold, say you all agree that you are working in the range of, say, $1,500 per ounce. If it moves to, say, 1,700, then it becomes a trigger. Then that's why we have to apply a new royalty rate. I believe if we do that, the country will be able to really get more from the extractives.
Emmanuel, which African countries got, like really good policies that their resources benefit them? I mean, according to your stats and your record.
Well, that's a very interesting question, because that's what we've been we've tried to do.
Johannesburg is doing well.
Sorry,
Johannesburg, they're doing well.
South Africa.
Well, it depends on what you're looking at, because that's what we're trying to look at. If you look at South Africa, actually, we and if you give me just a moment, South Africa on the index that we just did. Yes, South Africa definitely have some very good policies.
Okay, let's compare Johannesburg to Obuasi. They have pretty much about the same size of mind.
Yes.
So you look at Johannesburg and you look at Obuasi, and then you come and stand back, and then you can just judge that, look.
Yeah, that's I agree with you. Yes, Johannesburg was built largely with gold money, and so Obuasi should not, after 100 years, be where it is. But at the same time, it's important to look at, if you look at South Africa generally, that's one of the things that struck me when we were doing this piece of work, and we just simply compared the wealth, in each of these countries, the gross national income with the UNDP Human Development Index, and South Africa was very disappointing, even though South Africa basically controls large mineral deposits, and in terms of production they're still very huge. But if you can see that there's a lot of wealth in South Africa, but if you look at South Africa in totality, they are quite low on the Human Development Index. So it's not transcending properly. The distribution in South Africa have very huge distribution problems, and we all know that. So there's a lot of money, but the money is in the hands of very few people. If you in that sense, if you compare South Africa to Ghana, you will see that Ghana is much better
on the human. Oh, okay.
On the Human Development Index, even though we are not as wealthy as South Africa, but our wealth is gradually spreading out. But I get your point. Obuasi should not be where it is.
Okay. How about Botswana?
Yes, I think that, maybe...
I'm trying to find a good example.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back and ask, what was it that you're doing that we are not doing? And I don't want to go to Australia. I don't want to go to... So I'm just trying to pick up a few, because I know Botswana is not doing too bad on how the returns they get from their diamonds.
Yes, I think they are doing quite some good things that we can learn from. At least in the mineral sector, and some of it is very tight policies and frameworks. I think one of the things we can learn for countries like Botswana is that you have to have a very clear vision of what is it that you want to do with this resource, and it saddens me that we talk about vision and talk about Ghana, because that's one of the biggest challenges.
I'm still yet to find what a vision is.
So if you can't even think about carefully, have a certain consensus about where the country is going as a country, then one will wonder if you can do that for a particular sector in the extractive sector. So Botswana did that very carefully, and it's factored into their national development plan.
So correct me if I'm wrong before I come to Musa, is that I know they have a 50-50 policy.
Yes.
The diamond is there. If you're coming 50-50, yes or no?
Yeah.
I mean, can't we just argue like that? I mean, why can't we negotiate like that? Look, I got the diamonds, you have the money, and, you know, my diamonds are worth something or my gold is worth something. It's 50-50 or go to Burkina Faso. Why are we locked that by all means you need to dig gold to be wealthy? Why are we locked in that mentality? Because I think that's why our negotiation rates are so poor, because we are so desperate that if it doesn't get out of the ground, we are going to die. You know, why can't we follow Botswana 50-50 or just leave it there? It's always been there and we are not dead.
Yeah, probably before I come to that question and offer an explanation, initially you're talking about comparing Johannesburg and Obuasi in terms of
they're digging almost the same amount.
They are mining. Johannesburg is well developed, but then Obuasi is not the same. I think we should be mindful of the fact that in South Africa, you know, most of the mining operations, the investors are South Africans. Mm-hmm. They are within. Mm-hmm. So even when they make the profit, the profit is internalized. Mm-hmm. In Ghana here, of all the mining activities, there is nowhere that you can get direct, even indigenous participation.
So all the profits
and
goes where
all
the capital
the
came
profits
from.
Actually will have to go to where the capital came from. Mm-hmm. And you may ask, why is it so? Here, even our financial institutions, they are not even prepared even to pair up, even to inject capital into the industry.
That's very interesting. Stay tuned. I will need to come back to that. Guys, we're going to take a second break and then we'll come back and continue, because that's one thing that really baffles me. Because as soon as we see something shining, we are desperate to find the nearest white man with the cheapest negotiation to, you know, sign off our concession. Why can't banks and institutions pair up, come back together, come back with the capital and say, you know what, we own this mine, it's ours. What's wrong? Stay tuned, we're coming straight away. Hello and welcome back. It's Corporate Wednesday as usual, and we are talking about equity in the extractive in business. But before we go back into talking, Blue Rose Limited is saying that they are leading real estate developer in Africa with affordable houses, and they are presenting to you shelter for all. With as low as 50 Ghana cedis, you can get a 2-bedroom house from Blue Rose Limited. They are located at Budumbram, close to Kaif University College. And if you want to reach them on the phone, in fact you have to reach them on the phone and get further details. 50,000, not bad for a house. 020-202-9622 or 030-2241-459. Give them a call and talk. But before we went on the break, Pusa was in the middle of a submission which intrigued me. That the banks, the insurance companies, the big players within Ghana will not even pair up or think of pairing up and go into mining. And so we always fall back to these same old big guys from elsewhere whose main profit, main idea or main game is profit. Not your well-being, not my well-being, not your river in the village. Forget you. He wants his profit. Now I'm going to go to opposite. I was like, why won't Ghanaians, the big players, the banks, join up? I mean, it's 1,600 an ounce. You know, it went up to almost 2,000 an ounce at some time. I mean, if you're looking at profit, that was profit. So why? I mean, it beats me. Why won't banks or big players come together to do this?
You see, most of our financial institutions, and indeed the business sector in this country, rather prefer in short-term businesses where they will quickly just import sugar, flour, rice, and then make their monies overnight, instead of actually investing in these long-term projects. Again, you realize that our stock market, it's just an emerging one. Mm-hmm. And I think that is one of the areas that a lot of money is actually sourced from for particular exploration activities and even up to the operating segment of mining. So until and unless the business community, the financial institutions, the insurance companies actually buy into the idea that yes, now we are ready for long-term investments, I think the mining sector will still continue to be in the hands of outsiders.
Let me go to Emmanuel. So I'm saying that I don't think it's compulsory that you have to do mining. I mean, there are countries that are doing very, very well without an ounce of gold or diamond under their soil. So if we won't get rich quick, as Ponsa is saying that, we want to import rice and sugar and turn it around, should we just shut down that sector until such time that we are ready for long-term investment? Or in the meantime, we should just keep getting these investors in? I think, it might be too radical. Close it until such time you're ready for long-term investment.
I wish I could make you president tomorrow and see how you will react if you have all these
big players,
24 million people to feed and to provide infrastructure and so on. So I get your point, but I think it's a very important point that you raise on Ghanaian participation, and I think part of it also has to do with government attitude and policy. You see, we have to understand that in the extractive sector there are the direct taxes that a government can get from the companies and so on. But if you are looking at deepen the benefit in the sector and making sure that you create the jobs and the other linkages, your focus should not just be only on tax. You should be able to be thinking about how you get your local
support and
private sector to participate. Because if you look at the cost structure of all these companies, whether they are mining, oil or gas companies, take a typical mining company in Ghana, whether Anglo Gold, Newmont or any of them, you will realize that in a year, the amount of money they pay to government in taxes, put everything together, royalties, corporate tax, everything that they pay, it's probably 20-25% or 30 max
tops
of how much they have earned or spent in a particular year.
And that's about 30%. That's of profit, right?
Yes. How much
so
they
spend. So all their capital and everything.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that if you if they spend a certain amount of money, and it's normally within the range of $150 million or so in a year, that the tax component of that to government will just be between 25-30%. The rest of the money is what the company spends on procurement of services. The challenge for a country like Ghana and for the mining sector,
we don't have a service industry.
We don't have the service industry to support it so that you can retain at least 30-50% of that amount. So what happens is that the government is busy chasing the 20-30%, which is tax,
and they're importing water. There was a company in Takrady importing water.
And the 70% is all going out because you don't have the local private businesses.
What's the action plan?
The action plan,
quickly before we run up,
is to be able to make sure that we tap into that. We're doing that for the oil sector. I don't understand why we can't do that for mining. It's 100 years for goodness sake. And so you have the government somewhere talking about some private sector policy and so on. That is not linked
Minerals Commission, this ministerial team that the government has set up to police the mining industry, are they just going to enforce the rules that are there, or are they coming up with fresh rules? Because I'm sure there must be some systems there to police the industry.
I'm sure you're probably talking about the task force that the president
interministerial.
That's why it's actually to deal with the issues of the illegal mining.
That's illegal mining.
Yeah, that's
okay, so let's look at general mining in general then. What can we do differently? Because if we continue to do the same thing, we'll get the same results.
What we can do differently, which we have actually started putting on
quickly, on
high gear now, is actually what Yima was talking about, the local content and then also the localization.
And also checking the spillage and making sure that we find them properly.
The local content, if we're able to increase the local content in the industry, I think we will actually be internalizing so much of the money that the company actually spend in order to actually come out with the
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, guys, all too soon, our hour is up. Can you believe it? It's been an interesting debate, equity in extractiveness or extractive business. With me in the studio today was Amponsa Teria from the Minerals Commission. My left and then extreme left was Emmanuel Koyole, Africa Regional Coordinator for Revenue Watch Institute. My name is Nana Ansakwao, and it's been a wonderful debate, and I'm sure tomorrow we'll come up with even more exciting debates. Thanks for tuning in.